coming to you live from the mobile studio in Alameda, California. Keep it going for Ralph, Zig, Tycho.
Hey, how you doing, Paulie B? You've got an intern working with you.
I do. We
Introduce
both
him
have
to you.
interns. Isn't this nice?
Yeah, whoa. I was the intern.
You were.
I thought, right.
Well, we have a medical facility here. You see, I teach. You see one, you do one, you teach one. That's how we teach you here at Edge Studios. So,
well, Edge Studios is supreme, Paulie. It's nice to be here with you again. What's your intern's name today?
My intern's name is Colin, and it's not just today. Hopefully, he's here forever. We got to worry about that kind of stuff. I've got Colin. Colin from California. You like how I did that?
Yeah, thank you.
California.
Hopefully,
Colin, nice to meet you. I'm very appreciative of the fact that when I broke out my pipe, you didn't object.
How could I?
How could he? He's in California. He used to be Colin from Canada. Now he's Colin from California. So he's made that transition, if you will.
Colin, what part of Canada are you from?
You familiar with Southern Ontario, right around Detroit?
I am from the Detroit side, and I know it's close to the border. And I know you freeze your ass off.
Damn fucking straight. Oh, that is one thing I do not miss at all. Winter came and went here in San Francisco. Didn't even notice. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, climate says a lot because it puts one in a mood on a regular basis of not being morose. And if you live in a climate, could be heat too. Mm-hmm. Cold and heat are horrible, and worse than that, it lasts months.
That's exactly. No, yeah. I lived in a town 5 hours north of Thunder Bay, and winter would not end until early May. We would still have snow in May. It is brutal.
Colin, were you a hockey fan growing up?
Of course, I'm all about the Red Wings. Still am.
Oh wow.
Even if I'm not completely paying up.
When I was a kid, I'd go down for autographs, and Norm Ullman and Gordie Howe.
Right.
They were so nice to kids. They'd sit in the hotel lobby, and you'd pull up a chair and you'd chat. Hockey players, and I went down for a lot of autographs as a kid. All the sports. Hockey players are the most mellow as a group. Mm-hmm. I think they leave it all on the ice in terms of their aggressions. What do you determine? What do you think the reason that hockey players are also mellow?
Why would I think that? I think to some degree, most of them probably don't speak English. A lot of them are from Russia. Or those kind of frozen countries. But I totally know what you mean, though. They really are, not to get into puns, but they really are a chill group of guys. Same thing when I was a kid, autograph hound. I was lucky enough in Boy Scouts. We got to camp out at the Joe Louis Arena, and I got to see the Red Wings do their morning training and shit. That was really fucking cool to see as a kid.
Wow. Like, as a kid, I remember the same kind of story, seeing Joe Willie Namath at spring training, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
At Hofstra, and it's a thrill.
Zig, what would you say is what sport has the most like arrogant or maybe like kind of jerk off kind of players? Like what sport has the worst kind of people to try and approach?
Boy, it's been so long since I've approached them from that level. Mm-hmm. I got to approach a lot of baseball players due to my job in the 80s and 90s as the Tops representative.
Oh, hell yeah.
On the West Coast, California League, Northwest League. I met and signed a lot of players for Tops. Will Clark, Griffey, and what have you. And at that level, I met no arrogance whatsoever. It's when they reach, when all people become millionaires, they change. Let's put it that
it's
way.
the money you change them, not necessarily the game or the fame.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's just a vehicle to get you where you need to be, right?
And it's the same in comedy. I'm sure you noticed that, Colin, that well, you know, there's a class system.
Not to cut you off, but I totally know what you mean. Where it's like even in open mics, where it's this low level of comedy, you have people that may have been doing it for like a few years, and they're good, and they have notoriety in the open mic community, and they're on some like ivory tower, but it's like you're the king of like a playground right now. It's like there's bigger things out there. Like I don't understand this like animosity for whatever. But like with that said too, it's like I can understand
all ego.
Exactly
what it is.
Exactly.
And if one, not just comedians, not just the three of us, could put our egos in check on a regular basis on a lot of interactions, I find once I've said it, I realize whatever it is that offended or was inappropriate, I realized it was ego on my part. And, but you know, I'm human.
You are human. You're not even superhuman. You're just human.
I'm not super anything. I got news for him. I'm just sitting here. But I talk to a lot of interesting people. So, Colin, you'll appreciate working here or playing here, as it were.
It is our digital sandbox, by the way. This is where all the cool kids come to play. We don't care. We don't care where you're from or what you're doing. We just want to know what
we kibitz, and we chat, we kibitz, and we get opinions, and we're all have in common that we're passionate and we don't have a problem. We have opinions, but we're not opinionated.
So I'm having my my Amazon delivered to your mobile studio right now. That's what's on the right-hand side of you. They're delivering you all the cannabis that you can hold in your mobile studio to the right of you right now.
Well, I think there's more than I can hold than you think, because I put part of that cannabis in my lungs on a regular basis.
The best storage facility you have.
The very best, and I'm learning that you don't have to exhale.
Yeah. No, you don't.
It doesn't matter.
No,
and you know what I'm learning, and I've smoked dope a long time. I have to remind myself to take big hits and hold it in. Otherwise it's a waste. And
to build on that, not literally, when I rip a bong, I bring it in, hold it. I do that kind of thing, and like people laugh at me and shit, but it's like I'm getting fucking trashed right now.
Yeah, you get the high is better.
Absolutely. And we used to call it a power hit, and they used to have devices that you could blow. A
smoke buddy, where it like stops the.
Yeah, I have a smoke buddy over there on the shelf of the studio. So yeah, we have a little thing that a diffuser.
They get clogged after 35 years.
You got to scrape your smoke buddy. So we used to make a cheap smoke buddy. We used to get toilet paper rolls and fabric softener, and stick it in there, and you'd blow it through.
All right.
Okay, so we're in a crunch. It's time to talk about today's guest. I know the first one is Bernie Rose. Tell us about Bernie Rose.
Bernie Rose. I was the first person. He's a professional musician. He's a keyboard player. And when I was a kid, my best friend was his older brother, Marty Rose. And we'd sit there, and one day there was a keyboard, a piano arrived, and Bernie started in. I was among the first people to ever hear Bernie Rose do a chord. He's more than that. He's a contributor and a major part of the Comfortably Zone network. We do the Met Show with Robert Cole and his brother, who's on the DL, or Marty, and we do that. So I keep in touch with Bernie and Marty and my Facebook family through Comfortably Zoned. And Bernie is a pleasure. His politics are much like mine. He is an absolute, I'll let him talk a little bit about politics once we get him. And
let's jump right in. So let's do that. Let's jump right in. You guys know what time it's for. It's time for that little break. You know, if you're at home or if you're at work, you better step outside and take that little puff.
Get them rolled up.
Get them rolled up and ready to go.
Put that picture of you and I on the 908 porch.
We are. That's my little segue into your segment. So you guys take that little break. We'll be back in about 45 seconds with Bernie Rose and Zig.
All right, guys, it's time to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Studio. We're in San Francisco. Zig is over there in Alameda, and we're joined by Bernie Rose. Zig, talk to us, buddy.
Bern, I was telling Paulie off the air that the first chords you ever played on the piano when you were a little kid, I listened to. When you guys got the piano, and we've been friends through Mert, your older brother, since I'm friends with him since the second grade. The three of us, and many others, moved to a co-op in Queens called Northridge. And in Northridge, there were 16 buildings, 60 people each. Each family had 2 kids, our ages, and there was a schoolyard in between the buildings and sitting areas. It was a great middle class upbringing, and we got to meet and play and argue with and talk sports, and it was a great upbringing. I'm sure you will agree, Barney. I call him Barney. I call Marty Mert. I call Bernie Barney. I've been doing that for 70 years.
And Zig, great intro. Do me a favor while we go over to Bernie. I'm going to have you turn your camera sideways. Nice to meet you, Bernie. What's happening, big guy?
Oh, just
who's turning their camera?
You have your camera sideways, Zig.
I do have it sideways.
Put it back up on your dash. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bernie. Nice to meet you, man. How you doing?
Nice. Well, I'm worried about the heat, so I'm going to keep it down here. Don't worry about me. Get good shots of Bernie. There you go.
Should I be able to see you?
You should be able to see him. We're going to try to get you to see him back and forth.
What about you?
Oh, absolutely. You can see me too. We're actually here live in studio. We're in San Francisco, and I'm Paul, and this is my intern,
there
Colin.
You are.
How you doing?
Okay. Good. How's it going?
Very well. So it sounds like Zig was there for your first opening note. You guys go back a little bit.
He's 5 years older than me, almost. So if he says he was there, he probably was.
Well, there you go. He's the authority on
my
this.
First lesson in the second grade. I was 7.
Oh, really?
So I took lessons for 4 years, and then I cut it out for a while. And then 3 years later, I just picked up a little, boogie woogie, rock and roll kind of stuff, and I've played since then.
I don't think that rock and roll's got much of a history or much of a future, if you ask me. That kid with his hips, I don't think it's going to happen.
It's going nowhere.
No,
it's going nowhere.
People still want big band. They want jazz, Cab Calloway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff is great in its own way. Don't take anything away from that. That the music we missed, our music with Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Bernie Rose and what have you, it's better. But the old big bands and Cab Calloway especially, it was great music.
It definitely paved the path for rock and roll, at least.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't think of Cab Calloway without thinking of Minnie the Moocher from the Blues Brothers.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Right?
Well, Minnie the Moocher.
A lot of my friends in the blues, community play that. It's still being played all the time.
Oh, even downtown San Francisco, I heard excuse me. There was some sort of Christmas event or something, and they had a full little band set up around Union and singing Cab Calloway or Minnie Moocher right there.
Sure.
Yeah, I love San Francisco. It can be a Renaissance city, and other times it can just be really scary. But it's nice to have a little bit of class in our city by the bay.
Okay, before we digress permanently, let me ask you, Bern, who are you playing with? When are your gigs? And who are you enjoying music with?
Well, that's a lot to take in right there. I'm in 2 bands, but right now we are really not doing much, and I'm contemplating, what's going to be, ahead. But we've got the Florida Swamp Cats. We're down here in South Florida, and excuse me a second, and and then I'm in a Eric Clapton tribute band. A friend of mine, Ed Willie, and he does the Eric thing, and the rest of us, fill it in for him. But
what's the name of the tribute band? I'm gonna guess it has it's a theme of one, or it's a title of one of his songs.
Yes. Well,
almost.
He's got a song called "Forever Man."
Oh, from his album "Forever Man." That was a good album.
And we named the band. Well, he named the band "Forever Eric."
Okay.
He's got a bit of an ego, does he?
Well, and then he's Forever Eric for Eric Clapton. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, his name's. Oh, I'm so dumb. That went right over my head.
There you go.
Now I did a show last October with Eric Clapton's nephew that Ed was supposed to be a part of. He's the one that got me into it. Well, this friend of his actually got us both into it. Ed came down with COVID, so he couldn't do it. And so it was just the four of us. It was me on keys and a friend of mine, Mark, on bass, Mark Teleska. And the drummer's name, I don't remember. He was a friend of Mark's, I guess. And it was a four-piece. If you've ever heard of Will Johns, he's Eric Clapton's nephew through Pattie Boyd. He married, she married Andy Johns, one of the producing brothers from Britain, Glenn Johns, who worked with the Beatles and the Eagles. I'm sure you know the name. And his brother, Andy Johns. Well, Andy married Pattie's sister. So that's how Will, ended up being Eric's nephew, because that's when he was growing up, when Eric was with Pattie. And he does a lot of Eric Clapton shows. And he came down here. The guy that was promoting it just brought him down and got some people to fill in with him. And he knew us. So he wanted me and Ed on the show. Like I said, Ed couldn't make it. So we did it as a four-piece. He's a hell of a guitar player, that Will Johns. Singer. We did a whole bunch of Eric Clapton stuff. It was a lot of fun.
And
hey,
so,
Bert.
Go ahead, Zig.
No, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so where's your next gig happening with the Eric Clapton tribute band?
Oh, we're playing this Saturday.
Cool. Where are you playing?
Place called Two Drunken Goats. It's in.
Wow, I guess they did. I guess I can't name my bar that now.
And four drunken musicians. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we've been playing there for years.
Hey, Bon, tell the audience about your first, I would say, garage band, but we didn't have garages. Well, actually, we did. Each building had a garage, but you played with Jeffrey Foreman's brother, and in your first band.
That was the first band I ever had.
Right.
Warren Foreman.
Warren Foreman, and Warren lived across the street from you. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right.
He lived in the building next to me, and Mert and Warren and Jeff lived across from me on the other side of the street.
Right, and I lived in the next building down from you. And Warren's mother was Lil, and Lil was a character, let me tell you. Do you have any Lil stories?
No, not really.
I mean, she
I
was
did it too long ago. Who remembers?
Okay. Well, you
got-
always
Hey,
knew
Zig,
Lil.
you never told me that Bernie does a great impression of Kilroy. He just needs to put his hands up on the edge of the screen, and he'd be like Kilroy right now. He's so low in his frame. Absolutely. I had to mess with you. Sorry, Bernie. This is the way we
That's no problem. I don't know who that is, but that's no
You don't
problem.
remember
you would know if you saw the thing. Kilroy was here.
Don't you remember
The little
you only see half the face?
The little soldier thing.
Not really.
Okay. We'll have you Google search it after.
I live in my own world. I don't know what the hell's going on.
So you guys have some great history.
I'll say this, if Warren happens to see this on the 90th Street thing, he got a set of drums, and I had quit playing the piano when I was 11. He got a set of drums. I'm a year older than him. So he must have been 13. I was 14. And he says, you should start playing piano. We can put a band together. Just like that. And I said, all right, well, let me see what I could figure out. Because all I ever took was lessons,
You just got your scales and stuff.
I didn't know from anything. So I sat down and I had tons of records. I had rock and roll records. And so that's what we did. And we put a little band together. We used to rehearse in the rumpus room or up in his bedroom. It's a long time ago.
A long time ago. we're talking 65 plus years.
Damn.
Well, it's getting there for me. I mean,
yeah. Hey, Vaughn, talk a little Dodgers. You should be in the prime of your fandom right now.
well, they're all right. Who knows? If you don't win the World Series, the year sucks. That's what it's like.
Right.
A Dodger fan these days.
Well,
do we all have expectations of our teams that are almost impossible to meet, given that there are so many teams and one team can win, and the Yankees are pissed if they don't win, the Red Sox, the Mets are not pissed, accepting. It's difficult being a Met fan.
Well,
Zig, to build on that, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so I get a solid week of football, and then I can enjoy the rest of the season doing like flying a kite, going fishing.
Boy, as a kid, I was a New York Giant fan, but they played every Thanksgiving that the Lions did with Karras and Milt Plum and Pietro Santi. And Thanksgiving was my grandmother's birthday. She celebrated her birthday on Thanksgiving. She was from the old country. She didn't even know from birthdays and what it was. But we always went to my grandmother's and watched the Lions, and that brings back terrific memories. Win, lose, or draw, your teams the memories are indelible. Let's put it that way.
Well, absolutely. The Lions were on every year on Thanksgiving, so the whole country got to see them. There was no cable. There was no anything that's going on today remotely possible. So, all you could get was what was on the network television stations. Anyway, so the Lions, all right, they never won or have been to the Super Bowl. But I tell you what, after Joe Namath, they got nothing on the Jets.
No.
I mean,
no.
You have to have a strong constitution to be a Jets fan.
And leave us not forget that great running back whose name I can't remember for the Lions in the 80s and 90s. Anybody?
What was that now?
Who was the running back? Who was the great running back for the Lions in the 80s and 90s?
80s and 90s.
OJ?
For the Lions?
No. For the Lions. I'll think of it in a minute.
That's before Barry Sanders.
Barry was absolutely terrific. In an era of many great running backs, he was as graceful as anyone.
He was great. He retired early, though. But, he had a hell of a career.
Yeah.
So the Lions running backs combined, just to let you know, the Lions running backs combined for 2,653 scrimmage yards, led by Jamar Gibbs. There you go. That's what I had. That goes back a year. We're not 20 years.
Oh. Well, I go back so many years, and Vaughn, you're right behind me.
Absolutely.
And we're grateful for the time we've had. Mert's going through incredibly mind-fucking stuff that none of us were prepared for, which
absolutely not. It's nothing to say. It's just.
Yeah, right. We've said it all.
Yeah.
We love him on a day-to-day basis. Whatever communication we get from him on on Facebook, on our little group, the Robert Cole, you and I, and Marty on the Mets. We're grateful for. I just want him to not suffer, and it's a mind fuck.
It is, right now he's hanging in there. He's sort of in a niche where he can keep doing what he's doing, which is good, I mean, it's not easy, obviously, but it's, you don't want to think about the rest of the trip that he has to go through.
Yeah, and that's basically what I do the podcast for, to forget life, to, all that stuff. Look back on our memories and keep them together. But I started to say, Mert and I, at 77, both reached our life expectancy. So whatever happens,
God damn.
It's like,
well, look, you have a great saying, mortality sucks, and it is what it is. You just don't want to have some horrible shit happen to you. I mean,
yeah, of course,
you like it to be nice and easy or something, but it rarely is, I suppose. I don't know.
It rarely is. One way or the other, it's we could be more depressing at this moment, I'm sure. If we really tried, we could.
Well, without the bad things,
I want to just say,
perspective.
Your wife is recovering from, in good stead. You got some great news, and I wanted to pass on how much we think that's great. As
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's it went about as good as it could go. That's really good, and we'll get the final.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I'm missing a part of the puzzle? What are we congratulating? I'm sorry.
For our viewers.
I don't really want to get into it.
No, that's fine. It's something personal, but so things went positive. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good news is good news.
Yeah, it's nice when you get positive news when, sometimes life is dealing out lemons. And so
stuff happens, everybody or every family has stuff that happens. We had a small little health crisis, but everything went actually pretty well, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's the good news. When you see Marty next, would you give him a big hug for me?
I will do that.
All right.
I'm hoping to go up soon.
I teased when I was telling Paulie what you're about. I took the liberty of saying that our politics were very much in line. Our ideology was very close. Is there anything you want to say about what's going on? Take as long as you want. Talk about what's going on from your standpoint politically.
I don't know if I should, because I'll get in trouble. But it's insane. It's insanity. You know where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
It's just, and I don't even want to talk about the trial.
Well, then let's talk the Dodgers.
Put that aside. I just don't know how anybody can look at that guy and think something good. It's just a mind blower to me. And let's just leave it at that.
I'll add this one little thing. It's really crazy considering the laundry list of things that he's done, even just indictable offenses. And then you look at the recent polls. And Biden, okay, so what do they have derogatory to say about Biden? Pretty much the same thing they could say about Trump. He's getting up there. He might be a little slow. What does he call him? Sleepy Joe. Okay, so he's a little sleepy. I like to take a nap. I'm 58 years old. I like to take a little nap in the middle of the afternoon.
That's
too.
relatable to Americans.
If they called me Sleepy Paulie, I'd be all right with that. But here's the problem. You look at the current polls, and it's deadlock. It's like it's neck and neck, and it's like he literally could go in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone, or in this case, his running mate or potential running mate could take a puppy to a landfill or whatever it was, and whatever.
A wood chipper.
A wood chipper. No, it was that she took it out to a construction site and did.
It's mind blowing.
Yes.
It really is.
Well, who teaches these kids? Where are they learning that they could? Where are they learning ethics? Where are they learning social studies?
They're
What's
learning
going
ethics
on?
from the rich. One of the richest guys, or one of the guys that posed to be one of the richest men in the world. The guy is unsightly. He's doing it with porn stars. He's what was the other thing? McDougal. Boy, for an ugly guy, I guess you just got to have money. Mom, I just want to make money. What do you want to be when you grow up? A millionaire. Why? So I could do the 1998 Playmate of the Year, Karen McDougal. So even he's got Playboy Playmates of the Year. He's got porn stars.
That's fine, but don't break the law. Obviously, if you want to talk about the trial, what he did was he broke the law.
Right.
He paid.
But how about speaking to his basic ideology?
Purposes. What's that now?
His basic ideology fucking sucks.
Well, that's true too. Look, right from the beginning, he never should have been elected in the first place. But let's not even get into that. If Hillary would have ran a better campaign, she would have been president.
This is usually where we let Ralph go. We needed Bernie.
The other Bernie, the less significant one.
I still think to this day he would have won the election.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. He would have stood up to Trump in those debates and made Trump look like an idiot. That's all I can say. And I blame the DNC. And I, as a then Democrat, now independent, I feel disenfranchised from that election. And that sucks. That I'll always think that way. You're right, Bernie. He would have won.
Until we get campaign reform and get rid of Citizens United, I don't see how anything is going to change. The money is insane. It's got to be taken out of the equation somehow. But this whole economy, I don't know. The whole country is based on so much money.
It's no longer about policies. It's about whoever can lobby for their corporation to get a politician in now. It's not the people.
Yeah, but for corporations to be able to put out as much money as they want.
Exactly.
And not even have to tell who's doing it. That's insanity.
Exactly.
It is completely insane. It's dirty money. I don't know. It's a broken system. And we're a long way to go before something changes. And like I said, without campaign reform, how's it going to change? How is it going to change? And these students out there, with these protests, that a big bunch of those people out there are not even students, and it's alarming.
And then we also have foreign interests dipping their toes into things to try to stir up animosity between people. I don't believe fully that Russia pulled the reins and controlled everything, but I don't disbelieve that other countries may have tried to get their hands in the pot. Fucking on my voice.
Well, I think it's pretty much been proven that they've certainly dipped their toes in the water. But let's forget about the Russians. We need to take care of things here. If all of this stuff is allowed to go on the internet and they have nobody to report to, they do whatever they want, that's insanity. The New York Times can't do that. They can't print just bullshit, can they? No. I mean,
Yeah.
these internet, Facebook, and I don't even go on any of the others. I probably never would have been on Facebook either if a friend of mine didn't sign me up. He goes, "You're in the band, you're in the music, you got to be on Facebook." That's like 20 years ago already. But they can do it. All this stuff that comes out there, nobody knows where it's coming from, and a lot of it is bullshit. And the way that it works is if they see somebody who's watching stuff that is total bullshit, and it's not true, they feed more of it to them. And
now we have AI too, that's also just making things way more confusing, just adding a lot more tinder to the pile or fire.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. We're not in a good place.
Oh, we got you back,
Court,
Zig.
Are you kidding me? The Supreme Court, these guys are corrupt. I mean, Thomas, Alito, they're taking money from people that they're doing cases on. I mean, how is
Hey, how about Long Don Thomas or whatever his name is? His wife was an insurrectionist. That's
right.
Unbelievable to me that this guy doesn't resign.
At least recuse himself from some of these cases. That
right, like the ones in the Supreme Court.
What has to happen is a big blue wall has to take over the government. They got to win all these elections and get these sons of bitches off the court. If you don't want to pack the court, if you don't want to raise it to 15 justices and make this country right, then at least impeach the sons of bitches that are screwing it up.
Well said.
Like Thomas and Alito, and if not Gorsuch, I'm not sure what his deal is either.
What did Trump say? Every now and again he does say some funny shit. Drain the swamp. For DC, just clear that shit out.
Yeah, well, that's the old one. Drain the swamp. I think he wanted to drain the swamp so he could find out the rest of his cabinet. Right? Yeah, it's easier to drain the swamp and look in and go, "Oh, there you are. I want you to be the Secretary of Defense." So
it's really incredible that the country is split so much that it comes down to 3 states, maybe 4, 3 states that can change the election.
I mean, with that said about the Electoral College, yes, states like Michigan have more sway, or like Florida, but without that, population density, like it would just be LA and New York that are deciding what Middle America is doing now. And I also again, it's not a perfect system, but I definitely agree some reform should happen, but we also can't I don't even know what the answer is. I don't even know what the answer is.
Well, the new MAGA is Make America Gag Again. But except we don't want him in the office. We're already gagging. But it's really rather incredible that when it comes down to, I mean, California, New York, I mean, you got the center of the country. There's so many of those states, they're always going to go red, and the states are going to go blue. So it's going to come down to what? Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Nevada, and that controls it. We need to get rid of the Electoral College. It's got to be gone. And just like everybody else, if the people elect you, this way the people are not electing you. The Electoral College is bullshit. It's got to be changed. But it's hard to
But if it isn't changed, you got to get people running that can recognize that strategy that Hillary didn't have, for instance.
Well, it was unfortunate. She did not go to those states, certainly at the, when it really counted. I don't know if she went there at all. I know she didn't go when it counted, and it cost her. We were all up all night thinking this was in the bag, and the later it got, you started thinking this isn't good. Then when you woke up, you found
Hey,
out.
Paulie, I'm not getting anything from you. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, okay,
We're
good.
we're just listening to the conversation. I was queuing in your camera since you have one now.
No, we're doing it by magic.
Yes, we are.
How's our time?
Our time is good. Just to let you know, we have about 10 more minutes left in this segment, and then kibitzing, and then next.
Beautiful. Bernie, what would you like to talk about to get off your chest in life?
I don't need to get anything off my chest.
That's a good way to be.
I'm just hanging, I'm taking the ride.
Here, take a lay down on the couch. Tell us where it all started. Here, I'll hand you this little doll, and you can point where they touched you.
I stay up late. I watched the Dodgers beat the Giants last night.
Oh,
what could be better than that, Ralph?
Well, no, a little bit can be better, like a sharp stick in the eye.
There you go. I gave you a Giants emblem because you love the Giants so much. There you go.
I love the Giants and the Mets, and I'm even taken to the Yankees a little bit. And you know what? I love the memory of the Brooklyn Dodgers when we were kids. All three teams were so terrific, and we were blessed. It was like the World Series could be played in our backyard every freaking year.
Yeah.
It was a wonder. And you take transistor radios to school and put the plug up your ear, up your sleeve to catch the World Series. It was just an exciting place to grow up. And there's some pictures of that Paulie's putting up of the golden age of baseball. And if it weren't for the Dodgers, who would be your favorite team, the Giants or the Yankees?
Well, it was the Yankees. After, when the Dodgers and Giants moved away, my old man used to take us to, or me and Mert, to Yankee Stadium. I remember the first time walking out into Yankee Stadium. I was mesmerized. I was at Ebbets Field once, but I was so young, I don't really remember that. Don't forget, you're like, 4 years and a few months older than me. So when they moved away, I was 7. So that I was a fan, and I knew what was going on. Certainly in '59, when the Dodgers won the World Series, I was rooting for them. But still, I was only 8 years old. So the memory that you guys have for those extra 4 years, you saw a lot more of what was going on with those three teams in the World Series every year, especially the Yankees and the Dodgers. But I was a huge Mickey Mantle fan, even though the Dodgers were my team and Sandy Koufax was my guy. But Mickey was really my guy even before that, because the whole city loved Mickey Mantle, and Willie and the Duke, if get out the piano and do their song. But it was the Yankees. They were in the World Series every year. I remember seeing that Bill Mazeroski home run.
1960.
Everybody was in shock. There were no Mets. Dodgers weren't in the series. We're rooting for the Yankees. And in '61, when they won, the '58 and the '57 series with the Braves, I don't really remember. I was too young.
They were great series, very evenly matched with Spahn and Whitey Ford and Aaron. And wow, they were great World Series. Like you say, the disadvantages of being older are evident, but the advantages are that we had the memories that you guys didn't have yet. But
absolutely,
there you go. There you go.
You know, I got friends that were Yankee fans then. They're Yankee fans now. They've been Yankee fans for almost 70 years. I was in my mother had me and Mert in Dodger uniforms when I was 3 and he was 7. So
Yeah.
I could say I've been a Dodger fan for 70 years because I'll be 73 in 2 months. But the thing is that these guys have been Yankee fans for 70 years, and they still are, and why shouldn't they be?
Well, loyalties are hard to break, and sometimes I regret not sticking with the Giants. I became an apologist, not really a fan anymore when they moved to San Francisco. And I regret that. But there was a moment in 1965 when Juan Marichal hit Johnny Roseboro over the head with a bat. And it made me absolutely sick. And, so I'm glad I didn't. It was gross. But anyway,
when you move out of town and you're away for a long time, it's difficult. I was messaging with Steve Cutler a little while back. I know you know Steve.
Yes.
He's my age, a couple of 4 years behind you, and he was a Giants fan, but he's been in Colorado for 30-something years. So he's become a rock.
That's all we have is memories. But one thing about YouTube, the show notwithstanding, you could pick up a lot of footage and a lot of memories and a lot of analyzation and films and stuff of those days. And you could still get it, which in our parents' generation, there was no real footage, nothing to look back upon. We're lucky from that standpoint. We're also lucky, as much as I fight Facebook on a million different levels, they bring us together where who would have imagined that people could meet in a group like our neighborhood group, my camp group. It's just wonderful.
Well, technology is great in a lot of ways. It also can be devastating, but technology for just general usage and living life has been fabulous.
I think that's the key, is to find that balance where you're not living your life for technology. It's just simply a means of upgrading your surroundings. And like some people are just terminally online, and it's like you actually got to go out and touch grass, like log off every now and again. Use it every now and use it, but like it's here. We can't deny technology exists, but yeah, I think people have definitely lost the plot of it.
And I think different generations have different uses for their smart devices. My dad, which is Zig's age, uses his phone what it should be used for, as a phone. He just realized what a text message was like 8 months ago. He's like, what is this? And I'm like, well, that's kind of like smoke signals. Do you remember smoke signals? These are smoke signals, but through a phone. And so I try to explain to him, I go, you have that iPhone. He goes something about, I wonder what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. I said, well, just ask Surrey. He goes, who's Surrey? I go, it's the woman that's living in your phone. He goes, I don't need to live with another woman. I've been living with your mother for 50 years. And I go, well, then just go on Safari. And he goes, safari?
I can't afford that.
He goes, I'm not going to Africa and shooting elephants. I go, no, it's the web browser. And he goes, what? And so, yeah. So, again, use your phone. And then my kids are the opposite. I'm 58. So my kids are the opposite. They're 20-somethings. And they ask me silly questions like, oh, the new Avengers movie's out. I wonder where I could go see that. How much it cost? When are showtimes? I'm like, get on Google. Why don't you use it? No, I'm just looking at these silly videos right now. You know, oh, there's a cat. Look at that one. and the other one's dating, swiping left and right. My kid's got carpal tunnel syndrome in his thumb from swiping left and right on dating apps. And he goes, well, didn't you have dating apps when you were growing up? I go, yeah, I used to have to go in and turn in a VHS tape. Wait for 2 weeks. There would be 3 other VHS tapes when I came back in 2 weeks later to review. He's like, what's a VHS tape? And I'm like, okay, we're off. Just be kind, rewind. But we're back.
All right.
I'm glad that Bernie's enjoying every minute of that.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's all generational. It is what it is. Every 20 years, each generation deals with the same thing. Technology is just going faster and faster and faster. And it just grows by leaps and bounds.
It's going to be such a nightmare when everyone has brain implants and you have to get the dating app to coordinate with your prefrontal cortex. It's like, oh, no, we're not compatible. Your lobes aren't as like mine or whatever. It's going to be a fucking nightmare world.
Oh, it will be good for RFK because he has that extra brain worm
to
work the computer, so that's good.
Our worms are compatible.
Our worms are compatible. All right, so we're into extra innings, guys. We're into extra innings. Bernie, where can we catch you? It's going to be this Saturday. You're going to be playing?
Two Drunken Goats, Riviera Beach, Singer Island, the state of Florida.
Two Drunken Goats. I might get laid, Colin.
Yeah.
There's a chance.
Anything's possible.
Okay, so that's this Saturday. Where else can we catch everything that you do?
You know what? Right now, we're kind of taking a break from most things, so I'm not really playing that much right now. We had a couple of things going on with everybody, and one of my guys had shoulder surgery. I got the Swamp Cats. And this is my other band. Here you go. Here, the Florida Swamp Cats.
Perfect, right there.
That's a nice looking card.
And the other one is, see if I can find it. Here it is. It's Forever Eric.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
All right.
But the Florida Swamp Cats, my partner, he and I, we co-lead the band. And he had shoulder surgery, so we've been on hiatus really for a couple of months already. So I kind of just been laying low. And see this thing here? I don't know if you can see it or not. There it is. I haven't touched that for 8 weeks until this afternoon. Till just before I got on the air with you.
Oh, there you go.
Left it in the bag and didn't even touch it.
Was it like riding a bicycle?
Well, yeah. But there's certain things, within the show's context that, I have to go over now because it's been so long since I played them. But for the most part, it's all up here.
A little rusty maybe, but you'll get back in.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, how do you promote yourself? Do you have a website, or do you do social media, or what do you do?
Well, Ed, he takes care of Ed and his wife, Carol, they run the band. And
so there's all that contact information for Forever.
They're doing it all on Facebook and the internet. And the other one, there's a page on Facebook, and we just put it out there. With the other band, we've been playing within the Blues Society down in Fort Lauderdale area for the last, 20 years. So people kind of know who we are. And so we put it out on Facebook, some people will show up. And we leave it at that, really. We don't we don't push, hard. We just put it out there, and usually we have enough people to make it nice. You don't want to play to an empty house.
Well, thank you. And Zig, I know you want to send us off in true Zig form.
Well, I just want to say that I've waited a long time to get you on this venue, and certainly was worth it. I got you to meet Paulie B and Colin, and thank you, Bond, for coming on.
Well, I'm glad to be on. Maybe one of these days, we could get on with a group of musicians in the room.
Oh, that'd be great.
Make it happen.
That would be absolutely terrific. And you have these microphones always hot for Bond.
Yes, we do.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to get a lot of trouble with all the people that don't like my political views.
Well, that's good.
Well, this is Edge Studios.
Yes, this is Edge Studios. That's what we do. Thank you again. Bernie Rose, everybody.
Thanks, Bond.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we're going to do this. We're going to segue right into a newsreel. We'll come back right with, you got Danny Peary next.
All right.
Candlestick Park, new home of the Giants, who came west in 1958.
Ooh.
A West Coast storm has Candlestick Park awash. It's D-Day at Candlestick. 6 months of baseball now spirals to a climax in just one game.
Both starters, Ralph Terry of the Yankees and the Giants' Jack Sanford, were sharp, and the game was scoreless until the top of the fifth. Then singles by Moose Skowron and Clete Boyer, and a walk to Terry, loaded the bases with nobody out, and Tony Kubek was the hitter.
Ground ball hit to the shortstop. They're going for 2 to second, 1 out, back to first, a double play. Bill Skowron comes in to score, and the Yankees go out in front 1-0.
It was still 1-0 in the bottom of the 7th, when Willie Mays came to the plate.
Tom Tresh goes over, he makes a one-handed catch.
Tresh racing into the corner, he's got it, a one-handed catch.
Willie McCovey was up next against Ralph Terry.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. He swings and hits a drive into deep center. Mantle is chasing it in deep center. He can't get it all the way to the fence. Here's McCovey going into second. He's going to try for 3. No, it's not in time.
McCovey was stranded at third. His next at-bat against Terry would decide the World Series.
A 1-0 ball game, right down to the wire.
It's now the bottom of the 9th. The Yankees still lead 1-0, 3 outs from the title. Their starter, Ralph Terry, is still on the mound. Up first for the Giants, speedy pinch hitter, Matty Alou.
Here's the pitch. He bats down the first baseline. Terry chasing it. He can't get it.
2 outs later, Alou still at first, and the batter is Willie Mays.
And it's all up to Willie Mays. The pitch to Willie Mays. He swings and lines it down the right field line. This one is in there. Willie's on his way to second. The runner's going to be held at third base.
So it came down to this. Mays on second, Alou on third, 2 out. Right-hander Terry now in deep trouble and laboring. The fearsome left-handed hitting Willie McCovey is due up. First base is open. Orlando Cepeda, who had 35 homers that season, is on deck. Yankee manager Ralph Houck has a decision to make. So, although McCovey had homered off Terry in Game 2 and tripled against him 2 innings earlier in Game 7, the decision was made to pitch to McCovey.
He swings and sends a long ball to right field. Harris is chasing it. It is curving foul. It's going in the seats. Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right straight to Bobby Richardson at second base. Had that ball got out of his reach, the Giants would have been the winner. Now it's the Yankees.
sorry to do this to you guys. I'm sorry. I have to break in. I left you muted. That's gotta hurt. So, Zig, do it again. I'm sorry. And you can definitely address that. That's on me, guys.
Blame it on the intern.
Yeah, no, blame it on me. You can definitely blame it on me. So, joining us, and I'm sorry, Zig, do your intro again because I blew it.
Okay, I'm going to introduce a fellow who needs no introduction. Danny Peary wrote one of the most interestingly put together baseball books of all time. And I was telling him while I produced this show that I saved up. I spent $65 for this book. It was We Played the Game, and you interviewed 64 people and had them intertwined by their organizations and the year they played. And I can't thank you enough for writing the book.
Thanks for inviting me back, and I'm always happy to talk about that book. It's actually the sadness that I did it in 1990, 91. I interviewed 65 players. Unfortunately, there are only 2 left. So you'll see all mentions of my book in obituary columns over the years as one dies after another. Really, really sad. Elroy Pace and Pedro Ramos are still with us, thankfully. So, but anyway, I really appreciate that book has been long out of print, and the one person who champions it over and over again is you. So I appreciate it.
Well, the one person that goes to it more often, every time like somebody passes, I go to it to see what they were, to remind myself of what they were about, so we could remember them properly. And,
one thing I wanted to say, that book takes place, the 65 players takes place in the Yankee dynasty years, 1947 and 1964, and that, of course, includes the clip you just saw of the Yankees, unfortunately, losing to beating the Giants. But one of the books I wrote, a biography, was co-authored, was about Roger Maris. And one of the reasons I always say he deserves it to be in the Hall of Fame is that he stopped the guy on third base. He didn't allow that run to come in. He was quickly to get over there on the Mays hit. He grabbed the ball, threw it in, the left men on second and third with the Yankees still ahead, saved the game. And then McCovey, in the years way before they judged the speed of balls being hit off the bat, stupidly, but that would have been unbelievable miles per hour that McCovey hit that ball to Bobby Richardson. And
it's a game of inches.
Yeah. Months later, the Peanuts comic strip, famous with Charles had Charlie Brown saying, "Why couldn't he hit it over Richardson's head?" He was still upset. And all these years later, we are still upset by that one.
The author is a Northern California guy, and he was very much a Giant fan. And but in some ways, this redeems Ralph Terry.
Yeah.
In 1960, he suffered, or the Yankee team suffered, a horrible defeat to Pittsburgh in a World Series that you can make an argument for that they should have won, the Yankees.
The Yankees clobbered the Pirates in the 3 games they won, and then they lost all the close games. But the Pirates did score 10 runs in this Game 7 of 1960, and that remains my favorite game of all time, where the Pirates beat the Yankees, the invincible Yankees, 10-9 on the unexpected Mazeroski homer, where you see Yogi Berra playing left field, looking over the wall, and you see the number 8, which is how many world championships he had at the time. And uniform. And so I talked to Ralph Terry for my Roger Maris book, and he says he was redeemed. This is what he really wanted. He and Whitey Ford became like an amazing 1-2 combination for the Yankees, and so I'm glad he was redeemed, because Ralph Terry was a good guy, but I was not rooting for the Yankees.
No, I can appreciate that. I did have Ralph Terry on with Peter Golenbach on the podcast, and got to speak with him along with Alan Blumpkin, who is an associate of ours at Comfortably Zoned and a podcaster, and was there in 1960. He was going to the University of Pittsburgh,
where my granddaughter goes now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. You see how it all runs together?
It all runs together, yeah. No, it's funny. One of my books, I keep mentioning my books. That's hard. They're all out of print, so I'm not plugging any of them. But it's Ralph Kiner. I did an autobiography with Ralph Kiner. It's Baseball Forever. And he talks about arriving in Pittsburgh the first time. People don't know, before he was a Mets broadcaster, he was a great baseball Hall of Fame slugger, and he's the only good player on the lovely Pittsburgh Pirates of the late 40s and early 50s. And he talks about his arrival in Pittsburgh, and it was all steel town, and you could barely see walking down the streets. It was just covered with steam, and now such a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, he married a beautiful woman as well, a swimmer.
He had several wives. Stacey, the tennis player, he was one of them. But he dated a few pretty women as well. And then he got married a couple of times. In fact, when we did the book, his wife passed away, which was really Diane, and it was very sad. But so
yeah,
we were doing book tour, and he'd be crying while he'd be signing books. So it was an experience. She's a lovely lady, and he was wonderful, Ralph Kiner.
Good. Again, I want to hear about the book that Carl Erskine is quoted in.
Well, it's Gil Hodges' book. With the last book, thank you for inviting me back, by the way. But we haven't been talking a long time. Since then, Gil Hodges has been put in the Hall of Fame. One of the reasons I co-authored this book is to get the word out of how great he was, and how during the 50s it was assumed by everybody that he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And by the time, he retired and became a manager, people tended to forget just how important a player he was during that era, how significant he was. But anyway, instead of plugging my book, the book, this is Carl Erskine's book. He became kind of he passed away recently at the age of 97. He kind of thought, like Roger Corman, the movie director who just passed away at 98, that as long as they live this long, they live to at least 100. That's the cutoff thing. But over the years,
if you get to 100, sell.
Yeah. Betty White also, we waited for her. But anyway, so he became the guy who everybody would go to learn about the Brooklyn Dodgers, because everybody else was passing away year by year by year. And Erskine lived to 97, and is a very smart guy and a really sweet guy, and he's who you go to. And he wrote this book, Tales from the Dodger Dugout, and he actually, I can find it here. I have a wonderful signature here. You can actually see it on the screen.
Oh, it's coming up, yeah.
He loved talking about Gil Hodges, and that's what he wrote. Thank you for talking. I went to Anderson, Indiana, where Carl Erskine was from, and we had a wonderful talk. And what a nice guy he was, but that wasn't the end of it. I went home and continued to write this Gil Hodges book and kept calling him up. Carl, can you talk again and again? He was always willing, except his old 10-year roommate with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Duke Snyder, passed away during that period, and he was heartbroken about that one, and he needed a little pause. But then after a while, he came back and he helped me, and he put everything in order for me where I could figure everything out. So they're all through the Gil Hodges book. There are quotes by Carl Erskine explaining exactly what was going on with the dynamics of that unique team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, of the late 40s and through until the last year, 1957.
Erskine contributed to another wonderful book that you wrote about Jackie Robinson. It had quotes about him and quotes of him. And I thought that was great. And our associate at Comfortably Zoned, the late Ronnie Rabinovich, was quoted an awful lot in that book. And it's one of the premier books about Jackie ever.
I will show it, not because I want anybody. Well, I actually would like people to find it, but go to your library. This is it. It's Jackie Robinson in quotes, and as you said, it's quotes by him and about him, and that's it. It's quote after quote for a whole book, and it tells his whole. It's a different type of biography, and boy, did I learn a lot doing that book about Jackie Robinson.
What's the number one thing you learned, Barry?
I learned that I think the main thing I learned is people always say he passed away so young in 1972 because of just what he endured as a baseball player until he retired in 1956. But in truth, he never slowed down in terms of civil rights activism, and he would travel all over for Martin Luther King, and travel all through the South. And he was friends with all these guys like Medgar Evers, who got killed and whatever. And we always see Jackie Robinson young with his hair white. He just had so much stress before he played Major League Baseball, during the time he played Major League Baseball, and after. Just the whole time he was, I think he was dying the whole time, partly just eating away. He got diabetes, and that's where he went blind at the end, and just it was a hard life that he lived, but he was, he was a strong guy, and he just kept it up, and that's, I think, was my biggest takeaway of doing the book. The interest in Jackie Robinson shouldn't be just till the end of his playing career, because it continued to be he was an important figure afterward as well.
I think it was Martin Luther King who said that when they compared him to the godfather of the civil rights movement, he corrected people and said that it was Jackie Robinson, that were not for him, it would have come much later.
One of the other things that I came across was when everybody knows when Jackie Robinson was in the Army, he was court-martialed at one point, and he won the trial, and he was let off, and this is from the main incident is he went moved to the very back of a bus. He was like the fourth row from the back, talking to who the bus driver thought was a white woman. She was actually just a light-skinned African American. and he wouldn't move, and there was a big incident, and he was court-martialed. But anyway, that whole story, he was let off. But later on, Rosa Parks, it turns out, lived near that area in Fort Worth at the time, and this inspired her years later for her, not getting off the bus. So,
wow,
important. Yeah, interesting, huh? So
interesting how life is a microcosm of baseball, and baseball is a microcosm of life.
Somebody recently in the post, I posted something baseball wise, and the person wrote, "I wish I wasn't had been a baseball fan." And I said, "Yeah, my whole life has been that, but it's not just you're a baseball fan. You're also interested in the culture of America. That's baseball is culture also. So
no
it's
question.
more than baseball. It transcends the sport."
One of the things I enjoy about talking to you and the majority of our guests is that we don't talk statistics much. We talk humanity, and it makes for a better podcast and much more enjoyable for me, because there was a time, speaking of Ronnie Rabinovich, when I was just doing podcasts for no reason, when I met Ronnie and heard the story of Jackie Robinson and how he became a Jackie Robinson friend, and not just a pen pal. And it inspired me to have other podcasters on my network, such as Ronnie Rabinovich, Peter Trunk, etc., from the beginning, who could make the what I did a network. So it does all come together, but it's in talking about humanity again, not statistics. Because finding out about people, and one of your favorite people to write about and one of your heroes is Vic Power. And if you could go back, we've talked about this on the podcast, but never on this venue. And if you would be good enough to tell us about how your fandom got started and how it was, how it turned out.
Well, beginning my long story, when I was 5 years old,
I want a long story, because then you don't have to hear my gravelly voice.
When I turned, I have an older brother who's 5 years old, and his name's Gerald Peary, and he does all kinds of great things. You can look him up on Wikipedia, but he inspired me to like baseball, and he bought baseball cards for himself, and we started a collection together. But in 1954, when I turned 5, my uncle bought me my first pack of cards for me, not for my brother and me, but this is my first. I opened up the pack, first card, Vic Power, and handsome face, was Puerto Rican, dark skin, black, and there's another picture of him like flying through the air behind it. It's like the greatest baseball card in history. And it was like chickens when they're born, and they just follow their mother. It's just an immediate impact. He became my idol for my whole life. We actually lived in, for 1 year, we traveled around a lot. My father taught. And 1 year we were in Philadelphia with the last year of the Philadelphia Athletics, and Vic Power was a rookie that year. He should have been a rookie, as you know, a couple of years earlier when he was in the New York Yankee system. and he was hitting like 349 at AAA, then 330 something at AAA because they wouldn't bring him up, and they kept not bringing him up. And as Vic said, they were waiting for my skin to turn white. You know, it wasn't going to happen. So he dated white women, and he used to charge white pitchers who threw at his head. And this wasn't the type of player that the Yankees wanted to be the first black New York Yankee. They didn't want anybody really, but they made that as their excuse. And there was picketing outside of Yankee Stadium by the NAACP and whatever, and writings and Philadelphia Courier, Pittsburgh Courier by Wendell Smith and Sam Lacey. When are we going to have our first black on the New York Yankees? And Vic Power is the obvious guy, but they traded him to the Philadelphia Athletics in this big blockbuster deal. And it would be 2 years later, that 1955, they brought up Elston Howard, his Vic Power's roommate in AAA. But anyway, I became an immediate athletics fan. And even at the age of 5 and 6 and 7, I knew everything about baseball because of baseball cards. And Vic Power was my immediate idol, and I'd run out and get the newspaper on the dewy grass every morning to see what Vic Power had done, because in those days you didn't have internet or anything. But anyway, I followed him over years and years, every year of his career, which lasted until 1965, and whatever team he got traded to. He got traded to the Indians for Roger Maris. He and Woody Held got traded. Then he went to the Twins and to the Angels and Phillies for their collapse in 1964. And over the years, everybody who knew me, and this is true, because I at a reunion of about 8 years ago, 50th year reunion of my high school. I was out there and I saw this guy who was a sort of a friend in high school. I knew him, and I walked over to him. The first thing he said, "Didn't you like Vic Power?" Everybody knew in my whole high school and junior high about Vic Power. Wow. All my relatives who were immigrants from Russia, Romania, knew nothing about baseball. They all knew about Vic Power because he was such a part of my life. And
Danny, what interactions did you have with him over the course of your lifetime?
Well, it happened. I used to write about movies. You mentioned movies before. I wrote like 9 movie books. That's probably what I'm known for. But I wanted to meet Vic Power, and I had done a book called Cult Movies and Cult Movie Stars. And I said to my editor, "What if we do a book on cult baseball players and I can meet Vic Power?" And said, "Sure." So I actually called up Vic Power in Puerto Rico. He invited me to come down. So my wife and I went to Puerto Rico, and this is early 1990s. And he said, my wife said, "This is the only time I've ever been nervous for an interview or anything." I was nervous going down to the lobby to meet Vic Power. And then about half hour later, I said, "Why don't you come down if everything's fine?" You know, we became really close friends. And he said to me, "Well, instead of 3 hours for an interview, I will take you 7 days." And for 7 days, he drove us around Puerto Rico. He picked up every day and take us different places to meet his family, whatever. So we became close friends. So we played the game, and in the book I mentioned cult baseball players, where everybody I famous people like Tupac and Don Sales and Ron Shelton. They all wrote for me about about various players, and I wrote about Vic Power. And then we played the game. I have the interview, and we stayed in touch. And he passed away, prostate cancer, unfortunately. I was heartbroken, but I still thank God. This 5-year-old kid in Philadelphia who then moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and grew up there. I got to meet my idol baseball player I actually got to meet him. And what you were saying before about the humanity, not just Vic Power, when we play the game, we meet a lot of other players who had such a big impact on me as a kid. And I don't care about stats or anything. It was just, wow. Of this little kid who just loved baseball, had the opportunity to meet people under those circumstances. And
if things were different, what would your passion be if not baseball?
Well, movies, of course. I like movies and rock and roll.
Well, I'm going to jump in. This is Paul in San Francisco. I'm going to jump in because I notice you definitely write a lot of books probably about movies, because look at all the different starlets behind you on the wall.
Oh, behind me. Anyway, this is one of my books here.
Oh, there you go. But I noticed
book.
the starlets behind you. You have an array of starlets from different eras, but then on the top middle, you have Don Knotts.
Yeah. These are actually all autographed pictures, but it doesn't mean I actually.
And then there's Art Carney. There's Art Carney behind you.
Size, yeah. And
you have Art Carney behind you. You also, it looks like you have Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Yep.
Yep.
And here's the Art Carney.
Yep.
Barbara Billingsley.
Oh, I couldn't see it was Barbara. Okay.
All-time shows, Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, we were just talking about Leave It to Beaver yesterday, so that's kind of interesting. Cool.
Yeah, so I've actually written about all these things, like Leave It to Beaver, and Father Knows Best is my all-time favorite show, and I have their autographs too. So kind of fun. I was a product of the 50s, and it's reflected 50s and 60s. Obviously.
Yeah, so I was a product of the 60s, child of the 70s, definitely reflected. Yeah. And even in your taste there, I noticed. What was there any one particular star that either you met or got an autograph from that you were dumbfounded, if you will? Starstruck?
The one that threw me off. I mean, I have met, there are hundreds and hundreds of people I've met over the years, but the phone rings to pick it up. Hello, this is Gloria Swanson.
Oh, wow.
I've had in sports. I had a phone ring to pick it up. Hi, it's Joe Montana. That kind of thing.
Right.
Whoa.
Hey, I gotta ask you. You mentioned rock and roll. Beatles or Stones?
Beatles and everyone else. I love the Stones, by the way. That doesn't I have millions of Stones records, but the Beatles, the impact that the Beatles had on not just me, but everybody. It's just, I still listen and watch videos of them, and can't believe how eclectic they were, and just how inventive and creative, and how many great.
Individually, Lennon was so prolific after leaving the Beatles. So is Paul. George's life was
George Harrison, who emerged out of nowhere. Whoever thought that he would become somebody who had enough confidence to go off on his own and do records? Never at the beginning.
And he
did the Wilburys.
The Traveling
Wilburys. Those are great. Those albums. Yes. People don't have them. The first one has Roy Orbison on it, so he's amazing. They're great. That's great music.
Well, and George Harrison was the first Beatle who actually got a hit record after breaking up.
Huh. Oh, really?
Yep. With
Here Comes the Sun.
With one, what is it? My Sweet Lord, which is the one that was the copyright infringement.
Ravi Shankar.
With chiffons, yeah.
Yeah, with the chiffons, they had the thing like, oh, he's so fine, I think it was, right?
Yeah, I would have actually thought it was McCartney with the wings. With the wings.
Yeah, but, it was actually.
But anyway, the Beatles had such impact. I mean, all those. My favorite in the 50s was Ritchie Valens. That was my hero in rock and roll in the 50s, and he got killed. devastated. I still every February 3rd I post something about Richie Valens because he was such a big impact. And then after Richie Valens,
not just him, Buddy Holiday,
I love that and the Big
Buddy
Bopper.
Holly, the Crickets.
Yeah.
Is the myth true? So it was Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper get onto a plane. So who was the person that did not get on the plane because there wasn't enough room?
Waylon Jennings.
There you go. So that was
Waylon
the day
Jennings.
the music died.
Yeah.
So
the one guy walked out of the We Are the World group. He didn't want to be part of that. So when they recorded with Lionel Richie, brought all the stars together, and Waylon Jennings didn't want to sing in Swahili or something, so he walked off. But anyway, the guy who took over because of the crash was Bobby V, who Bob Dylan played with originally. He also lived in Fargo, and I interviewed Bobby V for my Roger Maris book, because Roger Maris grew up in Fargo, and Bobby V was from Fargo, and so they have all these things connect together.
I would have thought that Bobby V was from Philadelphia. He had that Philadelphia.
That's Frankie Avalon and Fabian and all
Bobby
those guys. Bobby Rydell, it's amazing how many hits he had. To be in the Hall of Fame. I hate the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too. That's another. All these Hall of Fames don't let the people in. It took forever for Gil Hodges to get in. It took forever for Pee-wee Reese and Duke Snyder and even Roy Campanella. It took 12 years for him to get in. Ridiculous.
Really? Wow. Well,
there was some antagonism or tiredness about the poor Brooklyn Dodgers who, from a different era, I think the voters stopped caring about them and kind of resented them. So it took forever. How do you let Duke Snyder all those years, like 16 years or something? Whatever.
Are you listening, Nancy? Irene Hodges is a contributor to this network and has become
Say hello
a
for me.
friend. Hello
one of my favorite dinners ever, before I got lost in Brooklyn trying to get home, was with Joan Hodges, Gil Hodges Jr., and Irene Hodges at an Italian restaurant they always went to. So for the Gil Hodges book, I went.
What a thrill that must have been!
It's a thrill. It's funny with how well known, at least in the East Coast, like Joan Hodges. Joan Hodges and Gil Hodges were a couple forever. When Gil Hodges would homer, he'd kiss his wife. He'd send a kiss to his wife in the stand. Everybody in Brooklyn would know about all that. And meeting Rachel Robinson a few times, what a thrill that was. A hero. Besides Jackie being a hero, I never met him, but meeting Rachel Robinson, that's one of I met Rachel Robinson several times. Wow.
Well, I just want to say there's an interview with Peter Golenbach in his book, Bums, with Rachel Robinson. And it is the story of 1942 came from that interview. And it's absolutely wonderful. So Peter Golenbach, who said that my book that I wrote with George Grimm was brilliant. Can you imagine? He wrote the foreword to the book, and can you imagine how that will be in the first paragraph of my obituary? Unbelievable. So
I want you to tell me and people watching how to purchase, not get free, purchase your autographed copy of your book.
Well,
I've been waiting.
I would say just order it from Amazon, but if my autograph is important to you,
yes,
you just leave me your address and I'll send you one. You don't have to purchase anything.
But we want that autograph. We also want to send him a pack of Topps baseball cards from the late 80s.
I know, but I'm not going to charge him for my book.
Not him. I'm saying your fan base, not him.
Oh, absolutely. If you're welcome to get in touch with me through Facebook, and I will gladly autograph a copy, personalize it, just as if you were getting it free, except for the $25. That's
and we're going to get you about that. No, I as you said, I have a whole bunch of autographed sports books, and I want yours included in there. So,
well, thank you.
So the autograph is important.
I can't tell you how I'm glowing, and coming from you especially. We talked about this before I had a podcast, or before I had a network. That your book influenced my life in terms of seeing that you interviewed them man to man. It wasn't a question of their egos. We talked about egos before getting in the way, and it was a different time. Absolutely.
Money got in the way, unfortunately.
Right. Right. And
we used to relate to these
how it changes the people and makes them inaccessible to the world. They live behind gated communities, and I feel sad for them, because you talked about Joan and Irene and Gil. They walked the streets of Brooklyn, and people would come up to him and they just hi Gil, and they prayed for him in church when the he had this horrible slump. And
for 21.
Tell that story.
Well, he went 0 for 21. I think it's a 1952 World Series, and all the Dodgers were here, not just heroes to the fans of Brooklyn, because they, this Brooklyn Dodgers was the best thing that Brooklyn had, and so when Gil Hodges in the 1952 series went into a horrendous slump, went 0 for 21. Gil Hodges had this amazing career, although he would take all first pitches, and he would not swing at outside curveballs, which he thought were always outside the plate. So amazing what a career he had despite that. But he went 0 for 21, and the whole town of Brooklyn was rooting for, actually cheering for him every time he came up, even though not booing him. And the next spring he started out with another slump, and a minister told his flock, his congregation, go home, go home and pray for Gil Hodges. And so all over the town, people were praying for Gil Hodges, and that's how popular he was, right. And how intimate this was. Hodges lived in Brooklyn the whole time, and Joan Hodges never moved from the house in Brooklyn. And we have Carl Erskine, we mentioned, Erskine and Pee-wee Reese and a couple of Duke Snyder and Rube Walker all lived in Brooklyn. They'd all, drive together. Everybody, after Erskine threw one of his no-hitters, he said, I now became, when I would take the bus or the subway, people would recognize me now. So these guys were totally accessible, and that didn't make so much money that they were separate from from regular people. They all had off-season jobs. They couldn't afford just to live on their baseball salaries. and in Brooklyn, that was the closest of any team with the community. The players and the fans were one.
And I've been asked, I'll ask you the same question. If it weren't Brooklyn, would Jackie have had a much more difficult time?
Well, the obvious, yes. Yeah, I mean, even in minor leagues, they were trying to. The Dodgers, after signing him, sent him to Montreal to play AAA. They could have sent him other places. They are always cognizant of where Jackie Robinson could play and not be in danger. Even in spring training, when Stanford, Florida, they had to sneak him out of town once because there were rumors that he was going to be attacked at night. Yes, so he had trouble in a couple of the towns as it was, but Brooklyn was a safe haven for him. He was really treated like a human being and one of them. I mean, everybody in Brooklyn was proud. That's I guess the best. Proud that Jackie Robinson was playing in Brooklyn. As the first one. They were glad it wasn't anywhere else. But he had troubles other places, especially spring training stuff. Very difficult. And
would you talk a little bit about how the Dodgers and Giants moving changed the face of the city?
Well, I think many people stopped liking baseball. They all of a sudden, with all the years of the New York Giants, but particularly the Brooklyn Dodgers, who I said was what the Brooklyn populace was most proud of, they were destroyed by this. And all of a sudden, some business, and Walter O'Malley, who was compared to, maybe Peter Golenbach compared him to Mussolini and Hitler, and the third most hated guy in the world was Walter O'Malley for taking away the team. Less with the Giants than the Dodgers, but the Dodgers lost. People, the Mets came in, and the reason the Mets were so popular as the National League team of I don't want to say losers, but fans could identify with them.
You wouldn't say winners, that's for sure. Those early years.
They needed the New York Mets. They didn't need the stupid U.S. Steel New York Yankees. So we needed somebody to go against, or I say we, but everybody was happy of the Mets' arrival. And it eased some of the pain. And now there's a Brooklyn Cyclones minor league team, and people really, apparently, really appreciate their existence. So, yes. Yeah, I can't. I lived when they moved. I lived in Columbia, South Carolina. I wasn't a Brooklyn Dodger fan except in the World Series when they went against the Yankees. But I thought it was terrible. Even as a little kid, how can you do this? How can you move away from, the people who love you beyond compare?
Oh,
all right, guys.
I was 11 and a Giant fan, a New York Giant fan.
Oh, you're a Giant fan, yeah.
It was devastating, absolutely. And to have lost Willie in the first prime of his life.
I went to the Army.
Yes, but when they moved in '57, he was just coming into his own, and my life turned out okay. I joined the Air Force and moved out to Northern California, so I got to see him from 1966 on. But what can I tell you? That it was horrible.
Yeah, well, people in Oakland are, you were in the Bay Area. All of a sudden, this team, the A's aren't very good, but they're not terrible. And you see some good players emerging a little bit from the A's. Miller and Brooker, and, Yeah,
I
so they
know
have
they'll
promise
soon
for
be
the
sold.
future.
They'll soon be sold. So
Yeah.
don't get your hopes up. I live 3 or 4 miles from the
I don't.
Coliseum, and it's just
It's been the
pitiful
worst.
what's going on. But you never say never. The teachers union in Las Vegas is rallying around not spending money on a stadium. Listen to this. This is so crazy, but spend it on education of the kids. Can you imagine putting money into education when you could build a stadium? That's, of course, my humor. There will be people that come, yeah, that's right. They could have had a great stadium. Who needs all that education? Rock and rollers, education. Whose expression was that?
Yeah, I could always. Anytime a stadium goes up, I don't trust anybody involved. It's all about
education
money.
was Dr.
I've
John.
never been to the New Yankee Stadium. I thought that was, there's no reason to get rid of the old Yankee Stadium. I've never been, So no, but I feel I'm an A's fan, as you know, and so I like him in Oakland. I like him in Kansas City. I like him in Philadelphia, but Oakland is really a good place for them, and the fans there. The fans in Oakland, they're not many, but they are so devoted to that team.
Hey, I don't know how much time we have, but before we go,
we're actually in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, 2 strikes. Go.
Well, here's my question. Do you remember, and I think we might have talked about him before, Joe DeMaestri, who was an A and later a Yankee, and was a good friend of mine through time.
Such a good, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Baseball player.
Oh, absolutely.
Game.
We'll look you in the eye and talk to you. You hit it right on the head. One of the nicest guys I've ever met too.
It was so good. The A's in 1955. I love the Bowman baseball card of him. But anyway, the appreciation some of these guys have, like including Joe DeMaestri, that hey, you were really an A's fan in 1955, and you really, I'm one of your favorite players. You say, yeah. Joe DeMaestri, you were one of my favorite players. You had such a big impact on me as a kid. You were the shortstop of the team I loved. Played with Vic Power, Spook Jacobs, Jim Finnegan, Joe Ascroft, Zernial, Billy Wilson, Phil Novello. I loved all the Portocarrero. But I love Joe DeMaestri. I interviewed him for We Played the Game, and he's part of the guy who told the story of what happened in 1961 and 62 when he was a Yankee in 61. And he told the story, and We Played the Game of the Yankees in that period. So I love Joe DeMaestri, and I was the one who got his name in Baseball Encyclopedia. I got the space between the D and the Maestri. All the years of they put his name together, and I asked him, I said, how do you really spell your name? And he said, separated. And he had a little tag that he put on letters and stuff, and I took that and gave it to the people at Baseball Encyclopedia, and they changed it. So he became a D Maestri.
Wow.
Wow. A big contribution to the baseball.
Hey, give me a plug before we go, Mr. Peary. What do you got going, and what do you want the people to know?
I think I'm retired, but I'm still, I still watch all sports. I'm a women's basketball fan. I watch a lot of women's UConn women. I'm a big fan. I'm an A's fan still, Lakers and New York Giants, and have stories on how I became fans of all those people.
Okay. Would you promise to come back, because I
Of
love
course.
yakking with you?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to next time when we met. I know you said there was a Preacher Row book coming out, so I wanted to sometime talk about Preacher Row because he's an interesting guy.
Let's do that, and let's make it soon and often.
Okay. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm gonna text you about getting your book because I do want it, and I do want the autograph.
That I know the autograph makes it so special for so many people.
It's nice to know that you wrote.
I have a Passerati, or whatever the hell it is, that through that book and this podcast, and I've had a pleasure meeting you on the air again.
Probably
Nice
about
to
the
see
fourth
you.
or fifth time, but congratulations on your
but
video
that
podcast.
first time seeing your face.
Yeah.
And I'm so jealous that you look younger than me. That I can't.
Every time I say, am I bald now?
Well,
not really.
I think I have more forehead space than you, Danny. I actually should start selling it for, like ad space on my forehead. Eat it, Joe's, or whatever you wanted to say. That's fine. Again, give it up for Danny Peary, everybody. Zig.
All right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your interest and friendship.
Absolutely. Zig.
Mine too, Danny. This is terrific. And we handled a new venue last night. We got it together. This Facebook video messenger was new, and we did it.
Yeah, I'm stunned.
Yeah,
I'm able to attach. Connect.
Well, if I didn't have Paulie B and Colin, this has been a good show. Terrific. Any way you want to close it out, Paulie B.
You got it. Thank you very much, Zig. Hey, you guys, you can check out everything Zig does on YouTube. That's right. It's the Comfortably Zone Network. That's right. He's got plenty of offerings. I think over 3,000 shows in the can.
Jesus.
With all his different cohorts, check it out. It's Comfortably Zoned on YouTube. You can check out Comfortably Zoned on Facebook, and check out Ralph Zig Tycho wherever crazy people can be heard and seen.
Hey, one thing I want to say: I posted a list, and I posted a list of all the players and coaches that we've had on the network that were over 90 at the time.
Wow.
Damn.
And so if you look for that, it's got the links. See, I'm so technically screwed up. It's got the links to all these interviews. They're all over 90. There's like about 7 or 8 of them. And the nice part is that they all had at the time, some are gone now, they had their, what we call in Yiddish, seichel, their brains. And they were just as articulate as any 40-year-old person. So go to my Facebook site and Ralph Tycho, and get those links, because you will enjoy the play that I've done over the years. The work is it's a labor of love. So enjoy, everybody, and enjoy a wonderful springtime, especially in Alameda. Thank you for being here. Paulie, Are we out?
We are out. For myself, Zig Zagman, and Colin here, and Danny, and thank you, Bernie, for going in there. We'll see you next week on Zig in the Zone, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. PST. Don't be square.